Welcome to some Battlefield 1. Top plays aside, I haven't really covered this game in quite some time, but after seeing a few other creators go back and play the game, I thought, why not jump back on it myself? In this one I'm going to take a look at Frontlines, one of my favourite modes in the game, and explain why I was really quite wrong about Battlefield 1 back in the day. If we think back to the Battlefield 1 trailer, I'm pretty confident that most of you were impressed with what you saw. I certainly was. Even at the time when I was a massive Battlefield 4 fan, I saw this and thought, yes, that actually looks really impressive. The move towards a World War I setting though was something that I didn't really get on board with straight away, and that was the big thing that put me off BF1 at first. As I said, I was a massive Battlefield 4 fan. I really wanted the franchise to stay with that modern setting, building on the journey that BF4 had taken us on over the previous few years. I was sceptical about the balance of vehicles and infantry gameplay in a World War I setting, and quickly realised that if I wanted an experience similar to Battlefield 3 and BF4, I'd just have to stick playing those games instead. When I played the alpha and the beta for BF1, I didn't really love it, nor did I hate it. It was just okay. A different take entirely on the way Battlefield games were played, yes, and it did have a focus on slower paced infantry gameplay. The game did look fantastic though, and that was something that I definitely couldn't look past. Did I think it would be on the same level as BF3 or BF4? No, I did not. The full release of BF1 was much better though, and I actually played a lot more of it before eventually moving back to Battlefield 4. It surprised me, BF1, because it actually worked on release, which is the first time we'd seen that in a long time. The game was polished, it was a AAA game, clearly they'd put the time in to make this the best game it could be. Big content drops came with Battlefield 1. In my opinion, the game improved in some aspects with those content drops and got worse in others. I did complain a lot about some things and honestly didn't enjoy playing that much. I think my attitude back then was more criticise and complain about things instead of celebrating the bits and pieces that worked, and that kind of makes you a little bit salty as a player and a gamer. You don't really want to go and play the game, it snowballs, and before you know it you've just put the game down and you're playing something else entirely. I think it's now time to say though that I was wrong about Battlefield 1. Yes, Battlefield 5 might have put things into a little bit of perspective, as we all know what a difficult game that has been from start to finish, and Battlefield 1 just shows up all of the problems in BF5. The environment is so much better in Battlefield 1, the atmosphere, and then that incredible audio to go along with it. The minute you drop back into BF1 you realise how much better that game is. Everything is just so polished and so perfect. There are issues, for sure. Is there a Battlefield game that doesn't have issues? I don't think there is. However, I did give it too much of a hard time, and I really feel like one of those people that's looking back with those rose-tinted glasses and having a bit of nostalgia, I suppose. But as I didn't really like Battlefield 1 back in the day, I feel as though this is a fair time to review the game and say, well, yes, I was probably wrong. I think the best way to look at this situation is that I judged Battlefield 1 incorrectly because I put it up against Battlefield 4 and directly compared my experience in Battlefield 1 to what I'd had in Battlefield 4, which isn't fair at all. What I should have done instead is focus on what Battlefield 1 does best. Now, in my opinion, BF4 is far better at Conquest than Battlefield 1. That's just my opinion. It does everything better. What I like from a game, tanks, helicopters, jets, infantry, all that stuff, works better at Conquest on BF4. But Battlefield 1 does things like operations and frontlines far better. Rush in BF4 was fun, but it just was nowhere near as good as in BF3, and then, of course, Bad Company 2 was just better than both of those two games, or at least that's what many people believe. Battlefield 1 had a different take on those core modes. Rush was nowhere near as good. Conquest was not as fun in my opinion. It wasn't as fast paced, and it really shined the brightest on Frontlines. On maybe a few maps aren't quite there on Frontlines, but on most of the maps, as you see in the background in this gameplay, it's really dynamic. It's quite close quarters and infantry focused with only one or two vehicles, but for me that's what Battlefield 1 does best. Operations, although there's no gameplay of it in the background here, is on a larger scale, but again it's focusing on certain objectives, and it's a real cinematic experience, almost like you're in a movie, while Conquest is more of a sandbox with no real direction. That works in BF4, having that sandbox, but in Battlefield 1 not so much. I think though, as I said, it excels at these other modes, and I judged it incorrectly, so that's where I made the mistake. I'm not sure if anybody watching this video actually has the same feeling with Battlefield 1. I do see a lot of YouTubers go back and play it and say, wow, look how amazing this game was. And yeah, they might have enjoyed it back in the day, but games tend to do that to you. You go back and you think, wow, they were good fun. Battlefield 3 being the main one, and you have this kind of nostalgia about the game. I think Battlefield 1 was one of the first games that a lot of people played in the Battlefield franchise. They dropped in and they thought, what is this franchise all about? What are all these creators making videos about? Why is it always being promoted? What is this franchise? Is it a Call of Duty killer? Is it something that I could play instead of Call of Duty? Battlefield 1 almost did take over the Call of Duty franchise for a little while because of the dip that they were going through, so it was the best time to join the franchise. But on top of that, it was one of the best Battlefields ever. It was something that really took the franchise to a new level with that atmosphere that no other game could get near. It genuinely feels like an all-out war. The audio, as I said before, the little things like the headshot sound, absolutely incredible. The sniping, whilst it's a bit casual in places, is just very satisfying. Weapons like the Lebel and the Martini Henry just have such a good sound. It really goes through you when you fire those things. It's got some pretty incredible Easter eggs, it's got good DLCs, loads of maps, a surprisingly good array of vehicles, although a few like the Muramet shouldn't really be in the game, but many others that are fantastic. It runs well on console and even better on the new gen console. So if you've got a PS5, go and play Battlefield 1, turn everything up and just enjoy how good this game looks. It could even be released today and be considered one of the best looking games on the market. There will be a video following this one later in the week that's going to be taking a look at more gameplay on Battlefield 1 and making fun of the desk setup that I currently have as well. If you follow me on Twitter, you will have seen that, and it's a bit of an abomination right now, but you have to work with what you've got. I've recently moved house, so I've kind of started working with a really DIY setup as I wait for my desk to get delivered. Definitely worth keeping your eye out for that if you want to laugh at someone who's really struggling but still trying to play Battlefield at the same time. If you are looking to play some more Battlefield 1 yourself, you've been thinking about going back to it, now is the time. Definitely go and check it out. All the servers are surprisingly full. I could go and find a game of Frontlines almost immediately, which is amazing to see. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this little bit of a flashback to Battlefield 1, just me saying that I was wrong about the game, and it will definitely change my opinion of how I view Battlefield games into the future. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.